Welcome, this is Bonita Miller, and I'm going to share with you some ideas from research for working with writers who are English language learners. First of all, we need to value the process that students are using when they're writing and try not to focus solely on the product, which teachers commonly consider a deficit product rather than a picture of their current knowledge about the English language. The process is not simply the brainstorming, drafting, revising, and polishing steps we typically think of as the writing process. But here the researchers focused on the mental processes, all of the mental processes that students used throughout as they were creating and recreating their texts while they were drawing, thinking, talking, reading, sharing, responding to other writers should all be valued. Talk to them about how they think and what they think as they write. Another key idea from this research on English language writers is that they will write based on the type of reading materials that they have been exposed to. So the implications here are fairly clear, and that is that we need to be providing and exposing students to a wide variety of types of texts: charts, letters, recipes, cartoons, captions under pictures, or drawings. All of these different types of texts can inspire their own writing because they may be closer to the real purposes that they might have for writing. We also need to consider the topics that we expose them to in the classroom written texts. Find relevant topics for them to explore. Even finding texts with characters that they can relate to is important. The prior learning of students is very important also for teachers to learn and understand because the types of environments that they have experienced in their home countries before coming to the United States may be quite different from ours. The research found that children from Chinese families um, were focused more on the whole word. Now, we always think about, oh, we're going to sound out words if we need to know how to spell them while we're writing. But uh, Chinese children are found to think about words as wholes because this is how they have learned Chinese. The parents may be giving them lists of words to write over and over again as a way to memorize the whole word, as this is more economical when you're learning Chinese characters. So when they're writing in our classrooms, they may be thinking about English words as wholes. We just need to be aware of this in order to understand their process. Native American children often work in groups and prefer to work in groups, and not only do they prefer to work in groups, they might even hesitate to work alone. So this is just another way that their background kind of plays a role in how they might respond in our classrooms. Now, on the other hand, there's some other cultures, and I have the word Nepal here, or Nepali children, but this applies to other countries as well. In the educational settings where they have very little paper, often instruction is oral and it's done in a whole group. There's a lot of call and response, and that's kind of the norm. And so writing is not something that they've been used to doing very much of. And um, they may not even know how to work together in a group. So if we gave them a task and said, here, work in a group and work on this project, they might not understand what that means at all. So, whereas some children might love group work, other children may not be familiar with group work at all. So, we just need to know what the background of our children is so that we can provide the optimal experience for them. Now, in most cultures, writing is the functional activity. And so primarily, teachers just need to allow students to write for authentic purposes. They might write notes to their grandparents or parents. This might be something that they do every day, or making lists, grocery lists, and things like that as a functional activity that they see in the home. Many families might write cards or letters to their families back in their homeland. So these might be more authentic types of writing tasks than our typical, okay, let's write a story in the classroom. So, and also came out of this research that real life events, asking children to write about real life events, might make a whole lot more sense to them than writing a story, because it kind of depends on what their background is in story. If they've had a lot of books read to them and they understand fiction and kind of how story plot goes, this might not be such an ominous task. But for children who've had maybe less uh, exposure to fiction genre, they just wouldn't, they'd be less likely to even know what to do to start. So we might just say, uh, write about, when you visited with your grandmother, or write about a time when your cousins visited, or when you did something fun with your cousins, or something like this. It's an event, a real event that's happened to them. And so when we call it a story, they might be confused. But if we talk about it as a real event, to write about a real event, it might be easier for them to even start writing. Um, okay, so sorry about that. You can tell I'm kind of a new Prezi user. Um, I think a big idea that I got from the research too was that a writing workshop should be something that happens every day, and that we just need to provide them with many opportunities for um, different topics, different genres, and that we shouldn't just box them in and tell them they have to do it in a certain way. So here we just need to think about what would be real reasons for them to write and real audiences, and let them explore these different things um, that might be more culturally relevant. And just bottom line, give them more choices. Also, allow drawing and talking, especially in the beginning stages. Now, we know that most all children, or adults even, do better with talking and maybe some drawing as a way to organize and even get out their ideas. But when language skills are emerging, drawing serves as a very important way to communicate ideas. So thinking about drawing really as writing at the beginning or even continuously to assist them in their thinking process. The research about ELL writers indicates clearly that writers of all ages should be allowed to write on topics that interest them, and that they should be given daily opportunities to write for their own purposes. And there also should be sharing. Sharing should be should happen every day as well. Not necessarily with the whole group. They might just turn to their partner and talk to their partner about what they've been writing about. Or maybe a few people could go and share with the whole group. But what's important here is the feedback from a real audience. The writing isn't just an exercise, it is communicating with an audience. So having this real audience is important. Journaling, we generally think of as the easiest, best way maybe to get beginning writers to start writing. But if students have never had experience with writing, they may not understand at all who the audience really is, like what is it they're writing about, and who even cares, who will be reading this. So the research suggests that maybe a dialogue journal is a better way to start with children who have the least amount of experience with writing. So in this way, the teacher becomes the audience, and it becomes clear then to the child who the audience is. And the teacher will write back and forth with the child, and so they kind of establish this sense of writing for an audience. Now, another idea to consider in writing workshop is, should it be noisy or quiet? So many children need to process orally, so they may just be mumbling as they're writing, or there might be some quiet sharing, or a question or something might be going on. So I think workshops could be noisy sometimes. Now I know that this could be a difference of opinion, because we all know that sometimes we like quiet for writing too. So I think it's a balancing thing, but I don't think we should eliminate talking at all as an exclusive thing during writing workshop. I think we really need to think about what our options might be and how we could manage it, because talking while is a form of thinking, and they might need that type of support to go on. So these are some of the prominent ideas from research on English language learners who are writers, and this is taken from research over the last 30 years. Prior to that, almost no research had been done on English language learners who were writing. I hope you got a few ideas here, one or two, that you can use with your students.